Well, hello, hello. It's me again. It's me, Mr. Bob Energy Crisis Hope, and oh boy, yeah. You know what? I am really dating myself with that friggin' reference. Okay, so and here is my trusty de-esser, aka Presto the cat. Uh, Today I'm back. This is the first. We're in the middle of November now. We're kind of cruising into late November, really. This is the first time I've actually sat down to record one of these movie talks since the Halloween tapings. Yeah, you've been largely watching pre-taped stuff. Well, it's all pre-taped. I mean, if I put this up tonight, it's still pre-taped. Okay, so what am I talking about today? Well, I'm talking about a film called Cutter's Way. Yeah, this was one I initially picked for Deep Images. They've already done it, so per the way we do things, we're not doing a rerun there. Anyway, so this is me messing around with that flick. All right, Cutter's Way from 1981. Sadly, grossly overlooked flick. Um, Directed by Ivan Passer, starring Jeff Bridges, John Hurd, Lisa Eichhorn, and Dusenberry. This thing, holy hell. Okay, so just as a point of reference to you, um, this film is I don't know, going back. I lived back way back in the Mesozoic era. I was living in this roommate situation where one of our roommates brought home a movie. Yeah, we all yeah, some of us remember way back in the Mesozoic. Um, this time when you could go out to a store and rent a movie and bring it home and pop it into a little machine and watch it. And before the days of streaming and all that other nonsense, just I rely on it too. But I rely on it too, and rely on it more often than you'd think. But uh, back in the days when tangible media was a thing, and that was kind of a boon, for those of us who had to wait, you know, way back in the Precambrian or whatever. I'm getting all my shit mixed. I am not an archaeologist, people. I am not much of anything. Um, but back in the day when we had the ancient art of sitting around waiting a year and then seeing the movie censored on network television. Um, yeah, I've lost track. What I was okay. So the one roommate brought home a movie. It was Runaway Train. Man, that's one I really ought to cover. But he brought home Runaway Train. One of my other roommates was asking what it was, and he said, "Wow, think of it as kind of like, uh, kind of like of mice and men with a bad attitude." And that always kind of stuck with me. This movie is much more like of mice and men with bad attitude. Okay, so kind of the seedier side of Santa Barbara, California, and it does exist. One of my best friends was living between Santa Barbara and Goleta in the latter part of his life, and he spent a good chunk of it homeless. Uh, and yeah, there is kind of a downside to that town, as swanky as it seems. But this movie features two characters, well, three really, and Mainly one of them is Richard Bone, played by Jeff Bridges, and he's just kind of basically he's kind of a hot dogger. He's working at the local health club. And he's like one of those tennis pros all the rich ladies sleep with, and that's kind of like how he gets by. And and he's coming home from something or somewhere. He's parked in an alley, and then someone comes by in a big swanky car and throws something in a trash can and basically gets in his way and pisses him off. And he realizes, hey, that's a dead body. And he goes off to the bar to hang out with his friends. His main friend is Alex Cutter, played by John Hurd. And when you hear the name John Hurd, you're thinking, hey, wow, is that the dad on Home Alone? Yeah, well, you're not alone on that. Uh, Despite what a great fucking actor this guy is, what was, uh, when he died, I was kind of dismayed. You know, my wife and I were both kind of dismayed to hear him eulogized as the father on Home Alone. And it's kind of like, God, of all the roles he played, you're gonna just bust him down to that. And boy, king among those roles is this. Okay, yes. John Hurd plays Alex Cutter. He is the titular Cutter in Cutter's Way. And he is this kind of cranky, embittered Vietnam vet who's lost an arm. He's got a damaged leg. He's a partial amputee, I think. And and I think has lost an eye. He's running around with an eye patch. And he is crazy. This guy is like a movie character to live for. I mean, it is John Hurd's best role. This guy is just this bitter guy who just kind of doesn't get along very well with the system, and he's also kind of a hardcore drunk, and kind of just sits there at the bar and snarls out like a pirate, you know, about any number of things that are pissing him off or whatever. And so Bone gets with him, and you know they end up finally getting home or something. And Richard kind of lives, I think, with Cutter and his wife Mo, played by Lisa Eichhorn, who's quite good, and she's kind of got a big, you know, kind of sad backstory. No, I don't even know it's so much a backstory, just great kind of deep, kind of almost like iceberg level uh, characterization, and just this miscreant trio, and they kind of go around, and Richard eventually lets it slip to Alex. Hey, you know, I saw this. I saw some guy dump a body in a trash can, and they just kind of blow him off. And then they're at this local parade, and a lot of the people come along. You know, they, you know, are riding these purebred horses or whatever, and thoroughbred horses, and just having this little party. And one of the people is a local tycoon named J.J. Cord, played by Stephen Elliott, and it kind of hits Richard like a lightning bolt. That's the guy. That's the guy I saw dump the body. And it turns out, you know, the body is this young girl, this young ingenue. And then her sister comes around. She's wanting to uncover the story, but Richard is kind of doing double, just double and triple duty. He's running around, running to the police, trying to act as a witness and file police reports. Yeah, at the same time, he's kind of getting looked at in a sus regard because he's not the cleanest character in the world himself. Alex has taken this down a whole other rabbit hole because this dude is like Don Quixote. He's like Don Quixote if Don Quixote fought in Vietnam, and he just takes this and he's just like, that son of a bitch, and he's wanting to go after him because he's rich and maybe kind of skeezy, but he kind of lays out his philosophy this way. It's just like, the thing about Vietnam is the first thing when you see the inner workings of it all laid out in front of you, the first thing you do on day one is you say, I hate the United States of America. You go back the next day, and you see more and more just corruption and whatever laid out, and you say, there is no God. And then on the third day, you say, I'm hungry. Well, what are you hungry for? And Alex Cutter is hungry for some justice. And he has already blown this all up in his head, and he gets real tight with the victim's sister, and then Richard goes back and starts having a fling with Mo, and then something happens. Either Mo, who confesses to Richard that she's very depressed, but she ends up dead, and dead in a big way because the house burns down. And the question is, did she kill herself, or because these people were making noise and they're trying to extort this J.J. Cord guy? Saying they're trying to force him out. It's a cockamamie plan on their part. They're trying to force him out into the open by trying to bribe him. And they're now wondering if he didn't take out a hit and accidentally hit Mo Cutter. So Alex is now on the warpath, and you've got to see John Hurt in this to believe it. I mean, he's going off like goddamn almost like a poetry spewing pirate or something. Flailing, limping around on his bad leg, flailing around, and he cuts quite the figure. I've never been able to look at John Hurt the same way since, but man, I'll tell you what, I just as it goes on, spoilers. This movie's now been old enough to vote at least twice. I think it's okay to spoil it. So they decide to crash the mansion, the Cord mansion, on the day of a big soiree, and Richard kind of goes directly in and is confronted and beaten up by the bodyguards, and they take him to J.J. Cord, and J.J. Cord is like, what is this all about, And then, but Alex has gone rogue, and he's, his gimpy little ass is hopped up on a horse, and he takes one of these big white horses and goes charging toward the mansion, and goes crashing in the living room window, and and just to emphasize the of mice and men part of this, crashes through the window and dies. It's like Darwinism, but this guy was so bent on this, particularly after it's like, yeah, not only did you murder this girl, you entitled bastard, you killed my wife, and whether and the question is never specifically answered whether he did that or whether he took out the hit, whether he put out a hit on Alex and Bone there and wound up hitting Mo instead. But regardless of the case, he goes flying through the window with a gun in hand. He dies. And Richard's just sitting there looking at his dead friend and looking up at the sky. And Cord is just pressing on this. He's like, yeah, Mr. Bone, you keep saying that I've done this thing. And he asks possibly the worst question you could ask in that position, which is, what if I did? Which sounds an awful lot like, so I'm going to get away with it anyway. What are you going to do? And it's possibly, whether it's just a hypothetical or it's an admission plus a "you can't get me" kind of statement, it's probably the worst statement that the Cord could make, and that's kind of all Richard needs. And he lifts the gun, points the gun, fires the gun, crash to black, roll the credits with no music. Fucking beautiful, man. Anyway, so, so questions are never answered, but whether they're answered is not really the point. Richard is a character who's kind of like the fence sitter throughout the whole movie. He's got an all right gig, working at the country club, not making waves, banging the rich ladies on the side. And he can go back to that and not make any waves and not cause any trouble, or he can side with his friend, as misbegotten as he may be. He'd side with his friend and stick to his guns and just take it out of the way, and he does. I don't imagine there's a happy end for Richard and all that, but hell of a movie, man. Hell of a movie. Cutter's Way. Do not fucking miss it.